Hi everyone, it's Tara with Secret Bee Studio, and I'm here today to show you how to make this cool little folding mini scrapbook featuring the American Crafts Shimelle Little by Little paper collection. On the screen, you're going to see a list of supplies that you will need to create this project. I'm using 12 by 12 cardstock that is 100 pound. We will be cutting it and taping it together to form this mini scrapbook. You could use a larger piece of paper, but it needs to be at least 12 by 16. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is take your two pieces of 12 by 12 cardstock, cut one at 10.5 inches by 12, and cut the second piece at 6 inches by 12. Take your 10.5 inch piece and put that side up at the top of the scoreboard. And you're going to be scoring at 4 inches, 4.5 inches, and 8.5 inches. Then take that piece of cardstock and rotate it clockwise. And this is very important. You're going to be scoring at 3.5 inches, but only to the first score line. Then also score at 4 inches all the way through to the other side of the paper. Score at 8 inches, again, all the way through to the other side of the paper. And then you're going to be scoring again at 8.5 inches only to the first score line. Then take your smaller piece of cardstock, lay the 12-inch side up at the top of the scoreboard. You're going to be scoring at 4 inches and 8 inches. Turn that piece of cardstock clockwise, so the 6-inch side is at the top of the scoreboard, and score at 2 inches. Then take your larger piece of cardstock and put the 10.5 inch side at the top of your paper trimmer. And you're going to cut on all of the score lines to the 4-inch mark on both sides. So you will not be cutting through the center piece of this cardstock. Once you finish cutting all of the score lines, move the cardstock about 1/8 of an inch to 1/16 of an inch and cut just another small strip. You can also do this with scissors, but it's just easier to do it when you have it in the paper trimmer. This helps to avoid bulk once the scrapbook is folded up. You're going to take your 6-inch piece of cardstock and you're going to do the same thing and cut those score lines just to the 4-inch mark. Do not cut through the center of that cardstock. Once you have finished cutting all of the score lines, take your cardstock and lay the small 2-inch pieces together. We're going to be marking off the areas which will later become the pockets in the scrapbook, and this will just be on alternating sides. I like to do this before I tape them together just to make it easier to cut. Take a pencil and just mark the areas which you will put into your paper trimmer and cut at 2 inches. Do this for all 3 sections. Once all of the 2-inch sections have been cut off of your mini scrapbook, you just need to trim off the excess pieces that were created when you cut on the score lines. These can easily be trimmed off with a pair of scissors. Next, take your cardstock and lay it together, and we're going to use some Scotch tape and tape these together securely, doing this on both sides. I also like to take the Scotch tape and fold it over the edge so that those edges do not come apart. Once you have the 2 sections taped together, go ahead and fold on all of the score lines. You can also go ahead and fold the album up at this point, and that way you can see if you have any bulk anywhere where it's not folding well, and you can trim those edges with scissors. I gave the front cover of my album a scalloped edge using a border punch, but this is a personal preference and you can design the cover of your album any way you would like. I am also closing my album with a small magnet. These particular ones are from Basic Gray and are discontinued, but can be found on Amazon. Another cute way to close this album is with a ribbon, but plan accordingly and decide if your closure will be on top of your patterned paper or underneath it. I am adhering the magnet directly to the cardstock using a strong adhesive because it will be covered with ribbon and the patterned paper. The next step is to cut all of your patterned paper pieces. I have put the number of pieces to cut on the screen to cover all sections of the album. I have also given you the sizes, but depending on how you trimmed your mini, they may be slightly different. I keep all of the top portions of my patterned paper because they make great trim pieces and can be used in lots of different places. The last two pieces of patterned paper I cut will be for the outside and inside of the front cover, which is scalloped. They are each 3 7/8 inches high, and I cut them extra long at 3 1/2 inches so I could scallop them first and then measure them to fit the cover. You will see I line up my scalloped edges and then mark where I need to trim them. Then I just go ahead and lay out all of my cut pattern pieces of paper into the sections where I want them, where I think they'll look great, and begin to assemble my album. On two of the pocket sections, I added metal tag holders. Again, just a personal preference. I mark where I want them to be and attach them to the pattern paper with brads before adhering them to the front of the pockets. This way the brads do not interfere with the inside of the pocket. To close the pockets, you will need a really strong adhesive. I'm using 1/4 inch score tape just at the edges of the pockets. Put small strips of that adhesive on the edges of the pockets before folding them up and adhering them to the patterned paper. This way you get some really cute little pockets that we are going to later fill with some tags. I'm using a tag die and I just want to make sure that it fits inside my pocket. I'm going to cut 2 pieces of patterned paper for each tag and adhere them together. I use a crocodile to punch a hole at the top and add a small piece of ribbon. I have 1 tag in each pocket, but you could certainly do more if you'd like. The next step is to take all of your fun embellishments and decorate the album. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it.